Welcome to the Unscripted podcast. My name's Corby LaCroix, and the song you're hearing right now is called Great and Mighty One, available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your music. But for now, recording from the Unscripted studio at the Junction in Old Hilliard, here's your host and my friend, Aaron Conrad.
Great Redeemer, God of grace.
All right, everybody, welcome to Unscripted 101 from my still unnamed studios here in Columbus, Ohio. I did add a Christmas tree, though, so, it is that season. What an exciting day for me, and thankful to my friend Kurt Harding for this tremendous opportunity to interview Mr. Delaney Baker. Wow. My girls are Luke Combs fans. As a house, we're Luke Combs fans. And so to speak to a guy that gets to play bass for him on a regular basis is pretty cool. So let me let you introduce yourself. I already did a little bit, but go ahead and introduce yourself, man. Tell the audience who you are and a little bit about you.
Yeah, that's cool. So I play bass for Luke Combs. I've, for the past couple of years, served as his band leader. And we've got to travel the world and play some shows and do some cool things. And 2020, that kind of ground to a halt. And so I've got some other irons in the fire, and I'm, just kind of starting to peek my head out a little bit and open the door to those kinds of things that I'm pursuing.
And are you in Nashville?
I am, yeah. And you're in Columbus. I've got a ton of family, like in the Westerville, Gahanna area. And
that's awesome.
So yeah, I spent a lot of time up in those neck of the woods.
Well, hey, when you come up again,
yeah,
I know a guy. Sure. I got you if you come up again. So no, we live in Hilliard, so we're on the kind of the 9 o'clock on the clock. If you looked at 270 loop, we're on that 9 o'clock on the clock. But man, hey, you come back into Columbus, I got you.
Of course, man. Of course.
Very cool. Well, all right. So let's start there. Let's just start there. 2020 has been a year like no other. And So you guys were touring. I can't imagine. I mean, Luke Combs is just everywhere, right? So you're touring like crazy, and then everything's ground to a halt. So what has the last, I don't know, what are we, 9 months into this thing now? What's that been like for you?
Man, it was an opportunity to relax, to rest, to heal, to focus on myself and some things that I had going on, and it's been kind of a blessing in disguise, to be honest. And I know that's I say that fully knowing that this year has been hell for a lot of people too.
Right.
So I'm not inconsiderate of that. But yeah, for me personally, from where I was in January to where I am now, 180 degrees, night and day difference.
So for you, and again, as you said, all respect to those that have lost people, those that have been through struggle in 2020. For you personally, and I can say even with this podcast, like I tend to look at the blessing. My daughters, my son lost a college baseball season as a freshman. My daughters have lost a lot. When I say lost, it's in quotations, of course, but things have been taken from all of us. But I choose to look at the positive, and the positive is I got a podcast, and I'm sitting right now with the bass player for Luke Combs. So I mean, like, what I'm saying, like that's me. And it sounds like you yourself have taken this opportunity to evaluate and to work on some things, right? It sounds like.
Yeah, man, I have, and just kind of shed some more light on that. In January, we were in New York City, and we were playing Saturday Night Live.
Wow.
Right. And it should have been, by all rights, one of the highlights of my career. And it was. I can say that looking back, like, very cool experience. Loved it. It was great. But we get there and we're rehearsing on Thursday for Saturday's performance. And I finish up rehearsal, and I go to the bathroom, and I come out, and I'm washing my hands, and I look at myself in the mirror, and I'm pale and I'm drained and I'm exhausted, and I broke down. Like, I lost it. I'm going, man, this should be one of the greatest days, you know what I'm saying, or greatest weekend. And I'm just completely a mess. I was depressed, honestly. a lot of that had to do with the fact that I was working through some addiction. You know, I've been a smoker or a chewer, some sort of tobacco user for most of my life. And I quit on October 15th of 2019. So there was thanks, man.
Don't breeze over that. Congratulations. That's
Appreciate
tough.
it.
That's tough.
Yeah. And so, you know, I'm still wrestling with some of that, still working. It was kind of the wintertime blues and all that kind of stuff, you know, and then that was really the wake up call going, hey man, you got to take care of yourself. And not just for yourself, but for your wife and your daughter and your team, you know, like this isn't just about you. Wow. If you're not physically healthy, if you're not like spiritually healthy, emotionally healthy, you know, then, you know, if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of others. So from that, in January, I got a season of rest when March hit. We were overseas. We were in Amsterdam or London, I think, when Trump announced the travel ban. And so, boom, we bounced on a flight out the next day. And we haven't had a whole lot going on ever since, a couple of wood shows, things like that. But, man, it gave me an opportunity to, like I said, rest and heal and kind of work through some recovery stuff. And I'll share more about that, I guess, a little bit later, too.
Well, Delaney, I got to tell you, man, because honestly, like for myself, man, I've gained a ton of weight during COVID. And anybody watching these podcasts probably sees it. I deal with it every day. Like, you know, so many of us have gone the other way. So I got to tell you, I got to praise you a little bit and say, man, for you to take this opportunity to personally heal and get better and face some demons that have bothered you, man. Literally, I'm not just saying this because we're on a podcast. I give you credit because a lot of us have actually, I don't want to say us, myself. I mean, let's just be honest. I'm on a podcast. We're unscripted. Like myself, I've had to deal with the struggles. If anything, they got harder during COVID. I think is my point is it got harder for me when all this has happened. So for anyone, yourself or anyone listening to this or watching this, that has been able to take that and say, you know, I'm taking this head on and has lost weight or quit an addiction or gotten better or started something new, man, I have all the respect in the world because I think for a lot of people, it's been just the opposite. You know, not that it's an excuse.
And that's okay.
Right? I just feel like that.
Hey, man, look, that's okay. And I'll tell you why. Because we've gone through a period of cultural trauma. Worldwide, you know, but let's look at our American culture where we're at. A global pandemic, any sort of pandemic like this is traumatizing and it is grief inducing. Right. And we can talk about that a little bit later, but I'm well acquainted with that. Like I've got some rehearsal time in for grieving, you know, and we can talk about that a little bit later too. I'm a Route 91 survivor.
Right.
And so that happened in 2017. So it's been prior to 2020. I went through 2 years of going, hey, this is the way grief affects you. You know?
Yeah.
These are where you've been hurt. These are your fears. These are what makes you angry. This is what can trigger you to go into that, you know, I call it when I'm in my grief, so to speak. And so it's just been a lot of practice going, recognize those things, acknowledge those things, don't lie about those things, but don't stay there. And so, you know, when 2020 hit, I was like, okay, this grief is not mutually exclusive with my joy either. You know? And so I think as a culture, and one of the reasons why I started writing the book, I don't know if we talked about that. I'm working on it.
No, I'm absolutely interested. So you got a book?
Yeah. So I'm writing a book and I'm so close to finishing the first draft of the manuscript.
I can't wait.
So close. My deadline is the end of the year, so I'm about 3 chapters out if everything goes well. But one of the reasons why I started doing that is because it's like, look, you're gonna face down some of these demons, and you're gonna tell the truth about yourself and the world the way you see it, because hopefully, man, it's gonna help somebody else.
Wow.
It's gonna give somebody else the encouragement and the power to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm not gonna get stuck here.
Yeah.
And it's okay if I was for a little while, but there is another side to this.
Yeah. Man, well, I can tell you right now, if your book's anything like this conversation, it's going to help somebody. Because I can tell you right now, I mean what I said earlier. Like, a lot of us got stuck, and some of us, I'm gonna be transparent. That's what this podcast is about. I think we're still stuck. I'm still stuck every day. It's just that same, right? And there's things that I'm dealing with, and so for someone to have to just show, hey, I've been there, I've done that, I got the T-shirt, and I'm getting better, man, that inspires people. So I'm looking forward to your book. I really am. I man, anybody that comes out of this better is good. Like, not that you're bad if you didn't, but what an awesome story to tell. And so you mentioned this. So let's just transition to that. You all were in Vegas, right?
Yep.
And for anybody that doesn't know, country music fan, maybe not country music fans, but I'm sure you saw it in the news, just a mass shooting that was just the most crazy thing, right? So you got this concert, a big country, and you can tell us you were there. I'm a country fan, so I know Aldean was on stage, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I know Eric Church has been pretty jacked up, and I don't know Eric Church from Adam. I love me some Eric Church, by the way, but Eric Church was really jacked up. Or was he on stage? Was it Aldean or Aldean? Who can you can walk us through? You were there. There's a mass shooting from a hotel down to a massive crowd at a massive country concert that's got the biggest names in country music. And I don't want to revisit something if you don't want to. So, and we talked it beforehand. If there's ever something you don't want to talk about, just get past. But you all were there. Can you take us back to that moment? Like, what happened? And I was Aldean on stage?
He was.
Okay. And then Church was?
I have no idea.
All right. So Eric Church was jacked up too, because I know Eric Church wrote a song after that he performed somewhere live that was pretty. It was just tearjerker, man. It was tough because he was messed up too. I think anybody that had to be there had to be messed up. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, a lot of pain. Even if people weren't there, I can't speak to anybody else's experience.
Right.
But we had just. We were still kind of a baby band. We had just finished playing the Next from Nashville stage. And a couple of weeks prior to that, we learned that we were going to be direct support for Aldean on the High Noon Neon tour.
Okay.
So typically, after we play a show or whatever, I bounce the bus and I'm in the back and I'm talking to my wife and FaceTiming my little girl and doing that kind of thing. But we just found out that we were going to go out on tour. So I was like, yeah, okay, cool. I'll pop over and check the show out. And real quick, before I go any further into this, like, this is the first time I'm speaking about it publicly.
Okay. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. Hey, and the reason I am is because I've learned a lot since this, and I feel like I've been equipped, is the Christianese term, right?
Sure.
To kind of handle some of that and maybe help others who are going through different circumstances, but the same heart.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the last time I told this, I can take an hour or more to talk about every little detail in the span of 15 to 20 minutes, right?
Right.
I obviously know that we don't have the time. This isn't the purview for that.
Time's yours.
But I'll kind of give you the 30,000 foot, just quick version. So yeah, found out we were going on tour with him. So I was backstage, and the backstage area was actually right in between the Mandalay Bay and the stage.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so I'd been in a group talking to some buddies, and Aldean starts, and I'm like, all right, guys, I'm going to go check this out. So I start weaving my way through some of the buses when I hear the first volley. And you know, so I grew up around firearms, you know, shooting trap and handguns and stuff like that. And when you're that close to to the shot, you hear a lot of the explosion, the cordite and gunpowder. You know, it's loud and there's a boom. But from the receiving end of 400 yards, it sounded like a string of black cats, because what you're hearing is the whiz and the crack of the projectile hitting the concrete, right? Wow. So it doesn't quite sound like what you think it was.
Right.
And I heard it, and initially I did. I thought somebody was pranking the festival goers by lighting off a string of black cats. But I thought, you know what, just in case, I'm gonna post up with some cover behind me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that actually ended up being where I spent the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes while the shots were going on. So, you know, what do you do when you get shot at? You take cover and you return fire if you can. Obviously, it was a festival I wasn't carrying, and I didn't see where the shooter was. So I had no idea that he was on the 32nd floor, like sniping.
Who knew, right?
Yeah, and honestly, because there were different impact zones, it sounded like there were multiple shooters.
Right, and that's what I've read. Right.
Yeah. And I'm not going to get into like down the rabbit hole with conspiracy theories and all kinds of stuff like that.
Right.
It doesn't matter. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to talk about like what happened, how I responded, and how, you know, there's light at the end of that tunnel.
Yeah.
So while I was down there, I knew I was behind a lot of the gunfire, and so I just did what I could to like help folks. You know what I mean?
Right.
I met a gal who's become a really good friend since then, who her cell phone was dead. She was separated from some folks, you know, and I was able to connect them. And you hear people going, "Hey, we need belts for tourniquets and things like that." Right. You know, and you're going, "Wow, is this
America?"
Really happening?
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, what's happening? Right.
You know, so that was a long ordeal, man. And I tell you, when the shots stopped, and there was an officer there who heard on the radio, "Okay, cool, now's a good time to evacuate." So we all left from around behind the stage. At this point, there's groups of, you know, 20 or 30 of us. And so we're booking it down Mandalay Way. If you look at like where the intersection of Las Vegas Boulevard and Mandalay Way are, booking it away from the Mandalay Bay Hotel and actually toward that airport. There's an airport over there. Mm-hmm. It's where the buses were parked. So a big group of us piles into this parking lot where the buses are. And I'm going, man, I know like my back's still behind me, but I'm looking at big old fuel tanks over here, and I'm looking at 180 degrees of nothing but openness. Wow. And I'm starting to go, this isn't a smart, like tactical position. And right as I was thinking that, I saw two guys from like my 1 o'clock position booking it across the street with backpacks across their chest. Right now, obviously at the time I'm operating under, hey, this is probably some sort of terrorist attack.
Right. At
least is one of the possibilities. And I see these two dudes running at this huge group of people with backpacks strapped to their chest. And so I'm like, okay. And I take off, and I'm about to like lay this first dude out, right, in hopes that somebody else follows through with the second guy. And about 3 or 4 steps in, and this was the wildest experience, I stopped because my body was at war with my volition, right? And I had this little stutter step, and I started like trying to turn, you know, like going, hey, don't do that. That's stupid, you know? And in that second that I hesitated, his hand went into the bag, and he pulled out a bottle of water, and he starts waving it. And he's like, water, does anybody need water, you know?
Wow.
And I'm going, oh. Thought that was it, dude. Right. In that moment, I'm like, I'm never seeing my wife again, you know? I'm not seeing my baby girl again. You know, that was it.
Right.
So at that point, the officer leads a bunch of people out across the parking lot. But then I realized that the bus that we were leaned up against was ours. So I'm like, I'm not going over there. I'm getting on our bus where I got my bag, you know what I mean? And I got my firearm, and I'm going to post up at the door just in case anything else happens until I know what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's where we rode out the night.
Man.
Yeah, dude.
I got to think. So let's rewind to the beginning of this conversation.
Yeah.
Dude, you almost need, I would need, I mean, anytime we suffer, and again, quotation tragedy in our lives, man, I've never been in a mass shooting. And you went from playing the bass, and I don't want to speak for you. You went from playing the bass, having a good time at a country, and I've been to a country concert. It's a good time. It's a party.
Yeah, it's a good time.
It's a party. Aldine probably went out there and was doing his thing. I've been to multiple Aldine concerts. That guy knows how to put on a show. I got to imagine, backstage is just fun. The last thing in your mind had to be shots fired in Vegas, right? In Vegas, of all places. Like, that had to be the last thing. I imagine you got to have some PTSD from this. Like, man, you got to unpack that. And it's so, if you guys, and I don't know, because I don't know what your tour schedule was, but I have to imagine as soon as that was over, there was probably some mourning and things like that. But then you guys are right back on the road because Luke is the hottest ticket in town right now. You probably didn't have time to just say, man, I need to unpack this. Is that fair?
Yeah. Okay. So a couple things. PTSD is a weird term, right? Because it's a post-traumatic stress disorder. Right. Well, it becomes a disorder over time, but initially it's just post-traumatic stress is like a normal response to trauma. You see what I mean?
Yep.
And so there are like stages of grief that people go through when they experience loss, even if it's the loss of like their sense of security. Yeah. Which is a false sense of security, honestly. Yeah. But a sense of security nonetheless, and they experience the loss of that. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with needing to reach out and talk to somebody who maybe has the emotional and mental tools to help you recover. You know what I mean? Yep. And I did so not only in a pastoral sense, but also in with Kurt Harding.
So sorry, man. You froze there for a second. I don't want to miss anything you say. What did you say? That you said reach out in a pastoral sense, but then a friend, and then it froze. What did you say?
A group of friends.
Group of friends. Thank you. Okay.
A group of brothers, and Kurt Harding, who we talked about earlier, was one of the guys in that small group. Yeah. That I went, we met every Tuesday, and it was just the four of us, and we would talk about life, and we would talk about struggles and our pain and our joy, and we would celebrate each other, and we would like pray over each other and cry for each other. And so like that was instrumental in in processing some of that. So I'm really grateful for that, Kurt, if you're listening.
Hey, you couldn't think of a better guy, man.
Dude, tell me
about it. With Kurt, and I love him dearly. I'm so happy for his podcast and what he's doing. And I love that guy. And I'm thankful that he introduced me to you, because I already today, I just feel like, man, I've made a friend here, and I'm man. Yeah, cheers. Walking through that, dude. I can't imagine any of that. Like, I can't get my head around it. I can't, and especially as a dad, you said you have a little girl. As a dad of girls and a son, man, I can't imagine. I can't. I truly, I can't even put myself in that place. And I know watching the videos, I'm a country music fan, clearly, and I'm a music fan in general, but I do tend to like a lot of country, and watching those videos was insane. And as you said, there's conspiracy theories and there's thoughts on, we won't even get all that, but just watching, is this happening in my America, in Vegas, where people go to, hey, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? I mean, people go to have a good time, and that's not what you're supposed to have happen in Vegas, let alone anywhere in the country. It's like, I don't know, man. I can't imagine what it was like. And man, I give you a ton of respect and thank you for sharing that with this audience.
Of course, man.
Unbelievable what you all walked through. I'm proud of you that you could find, because honestly, a lot of people could spiral. And I imagine some guys have, man. Like I said, I know Church he's openly shared and written songs and struggled with his response to that. And I know Aldean, I think, has had some interviews where he said some stuff too. Like, just an unbelievable time. And I'm thankful that you would share that with us.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Well, like I said, the purpose for sharing that is to go like, here's what happened, here's how my response was, and then this is kind of what what worked for me to help process that, to move forward and not to be a victim of that becoming my identity. Does that make sense?
Right. 100%.
And I think it's especially important now. And one of the reasons why, I'm willing now to do something like this podcast and talk about the experiences, because we see the same evidence of grief now on a cultural scale, right? And it's causing a lot of friction and conflict, right? So, man, I almost feel a responsibility to go, you're hurt, you're sad, you're lonely, everybody's angry, everybody's fearful, and grieving. And it's like, okay, how do we move past that and get to a place of healing and joy?
Yep.
And, and the answer is not to, I don't know exactly what all the answers are, but I think it's something that we need to honestly address as a culture, as a society.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think the one thing that this has done is isolate us. And you just said it a few minutes ago. If we're not together, if we're not a community of people, whether it's a band of brothers that we're getting with together, like you said, once a week, to share our struggles, our hurts, our just to be completely transparent with, or it's a small group with our family and our church, or whatever that might be, man. Community is different for everybody. Maybe it's your local soccer families that you watch your kids play together. I don't know what community is for everybody, but I know we need it. And it's been taken away. And right now, I think that's, you said it, man, it's hurting everyone and again, that's with the understanding that COVID itself is tragic, and we're all hurting for that. But what's that secondary kind of quiet thing that nobody's talking about, and people are starting to talk about, is mental health and mental wellness for our kids, for us, everybody. We got to get together again. We need people. So let me ask you that. I mean, I got to think a part of your healing was probably stepping on stage one day and do what you were born to do, and that's play bass, whether in a concert with a large, right? I mean, isn't that where that's where you find your joy? I have to imagine, almost like a basketball player that tore his ACL. He's going to struggle until he gets back out and plays basketball again. Like, was that for you? Was that the healing point for you, was to get back out and play bass?
No, man, it wasn't.
No. Okay.
It wasn't. I love playing music. It is a source of joy in my life, but it is not the source of joy. You see what I mean?
Yep.
Something like that, if you make it the source of joy, it's going to let you down. And when it does, you give it the power to destroy you, Right. And maybe I'm jaded. Maybe I've been around Nashville too long, but I just know that, like, this town will break your heart, and it has the power to, right? And so I'm grateful for what I do. I'm grateful that I work for an awesome boss and that we have a great team, and absolutely, I love stepping on stage. I want to step on stage in front of 15,000 people again or more. Yeah. And crank it up and feel that bass coming through those subs, rattling the whole stage, and see the lights come up and the people screaming again. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's not my source of joy. And honestly, the first time that we had to step on stage after that was painful, man.
Wow.
We bounced straight from there to do the Kimmel show, right? Jimmy Kimmel Live. It was the very next day, and we stood up on stage, and then we did like another show there in Los Angeles, and then we bounced to New Mexico, where my wife and daughter flew out to meet us and rode the bus home. But no, man, I think we did it because we knew that it had the opportunity to bless a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
Who were shocked and stunned and hurting. And so it's like, yeah, of course that's what you do, but man, no, and that's not where my healing happened. My healing happened elbow to elbow with good men who were willing to sit and cry with me.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Right. I do. And I hope people hear and watch this, man, because gosh, I'm speechless. I'm speechless. I have a guest on that. I'm so honored. I'm so honored that tours the world, like, right. Everybody, I think for me, myself, I used to sit with little tennis, and I don't tell anybody, I had a tennis racket in my house. I took the strap off of a duffel bag that had two clips on it. Right. I clipped one end, and I used to sit in my room when I was a kid, and man, I was on tour. I was a rock star, and I would air guitar like the best of them. I didn't even know how to play guitar, but I think
you don't have to lie.
A lot of people's dream, right? That's a lot of people's dream, is to be 15,000 people, and the crowds and the noise and the T-shirts and the tour. And man, for you to say, I find my joy in a group of guys, and let alone a group of guys, and you just said it, that can cry together. Because you know what I mean, we're supposed to be tough guys, we're supposed to not never cry, but to be in a group of guys, not that guys got to sit around crying together, but I'm with you, I'm locked in with you, that sometimes you got to be able to sit down and be vulnerable enough to say, right. Yeah. I am, to put the sword and the shield, to leave them at the door as warriors. And I just hit my Christmas tree, but as warriors, leave them at the door, and walk in and say, man, this battle's tough. There's not enough groups like that. There's not enough men like that, man. Man, I have so much respect. I had respect for you before this even started, but I have a ton of respect for you to say, hey, touring's cool. Full stadiums is cool. It's all cool. My real joy comes from sitting with guys elbow to elbow. Your words, elbow to elbow, grinding it out, living life, man.
Yep. And just because I focus on that, like, I don't mean to take any credit away from like my wife, who is a superhero, right? In terms of just like all the crap that she's had to put up with from me in response to this, because it's like what happened and then the response. She was the one who was really bearing the brunt of that. My irritability, my short-temperedness, and my just general withdrawal, my absence. It's like, man, she is a hero and deserves so much credit for that,
right?
As well. So
I think our wives all do, and I try as best I can, and I do genuinely mean it. When everyone gives credit to me for my kids, first 99% goes to my wife, because that's where the good comes from. Man, I just have a ton of respect for you. I really, really do. And I had it before we even started this call. I just, wow. What, this might be the one of the most powerful podcasts I've ever done. And I'm saying that, I really, really mean that. Wow. I'm almost speechless at this point, which is, for me, as most people know, is rare. So let's transition. Let me ask you some, I guess, let me ask you some quick questions.
Sure.
When did you first start playing bass? When did you say, hey, man, this is something I want to do?
I was in junior high, somewhere between my 7th and 8th grade year, I think, is when I got my first bass. And
you just did you ever? Can you play acoustic, or you just play bass? That's it.
Oh no, I'm a guitar player as well.
You're a guitar player as well. Okay.
Yeah, but bass is my main instrument. It was my first love, and then all the guitar work that I do is just to augment that.
Did you start with the bass, or did
Yes.
you started with bass? Did you find acoustic easier to play after you started with bass, or no?
Yeah, I mean, some of the theory translates.
Transition. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you play bar chords?
Yes, I can play bar chords.
I'm a hack. I can't play
No, you're
bar
good.
chords for anything, man. I can't. They irritate me so much.
Yeah, they're kind of a pain, man, for sure.
Right. I think once you get it, you get it. And light comes on, and you're good to go. Right.
Yeah.
I don't like. I can't play them, so I don't know. All right. What was the first band you were in? What was the name of the first band that you ever played in?
First band I was ever in, I was a sophomore in high school. It was a power trio, and the name was Breakdown.
Breakdown. Okay. Where did they come? Where did the name come from? Well, first, where did you grow up?
So just north of Kansas City, in a small antique and tobacco farming town called Weston.
Okay.
It's on the bluffs of the Missouri River. It's beautiful. If you ever get a chance to make it, man, you got to check out like O'Malley's Pub and the Main Street Galleria and all these places, right? Love it.
I love it already. I love it
Our
already.
first,
And so
our first show we set up on a tobacco trailer.
Okay. So to break down used to break down in like nightclubs or like what was it, like a high school band, or what was it?
Papa Frank's Pizza, because we were all in high school. We couldn't get in no nightclubs.
Right. How much? Hey, let me ask you this: you played 20,000, 30,000, you name it. Do you miss playing for Breakdown one day, like when it was just simple, or do you?
I have an appreciation for those years.
Okay, right.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah. When it was simple, right? When it was just you guys having some fun, probably made up your own T-shirts or something. I don't know.
Bro, we didn't even get that far, man. It's like
Right.
2000. I'm dating myself. This is like 2002.
Oh, that's awesome. That's very cool. So when did you meet Luke? How did that happen?
Let's see. That would have been in 2016. I was freelancing. Had been freelancing out of Nashville for a couple of years, and just sort of have bass, will travel,
Right.
and was playing for a variety of different artists. And it was like, and I was teaching lessons. So my days were spent teaching lessons and learning music. And then I'd bounce on Thursday and go play Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And the next week it might be with a different artist. And so I'm having to learn 40 more tunes,
Yeah.
And so just cramming. And some of that was there was some overlap, of course. But doing that for a number of years, I got to meet a bunch of folks, meet a bunch of good players and build some friendships. And it was through that network that I just got a call, hey, we're looking for a bass player to come do the next 3 weekends, right? Well, when I got the call from Rob saying that he needed somebody for the next 3 weekends, my wife was like 8 months pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm going,
yeah.
I tell you what, I said, I'll do this weekend, but just to buy you some time so that you can fill the next 2. But I can't miss the birth of my daughter,
Yeah.
And so did that, went out one weekend, played with Luke and the boys, and it was cool, man. Very non-pretentious, very focused, fun, and a place that I felt like I could call home for a while. That's so the week my daughter was born, we actually had that conversation about me taking the gig full time.
And it all worked out. Here you are today, right? So you've been with them since 2017?
2016.
2016. So 4 years.
Yep.
You've been with the band. And it's just called the band, right? Because it's just Luke Combs, right?
Right. Yeah. There's no like.
It's not like Old Dominion or whatever, Diamond Rio or whatever. It's Luke Combs, right?
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So do you help him write songs, or does he just, man? I mean, he's on a roll right now because he's got nothing but time. It seems like dude is just pumping out hits like crazy.
Yeah.
Do you
No,
sit down with him and help him and like, how does that work? And I'm fascinated because I'm not gonna lie, I've watched some Taylor Swift documentaries, and I'm amazed that like Taylor Swift will just sit down on a bus, write some words, and then she goes in with, and this is where I want to give you credit, she goes in with her musicians, and next thing I know, they're banging out a tune, and it's like a half hour later. It's amazing to me how to watch artists like yourself. Because there's writing a song, and that, man, that's what gets the glory, right? But there's people behind the scenes that can just all of a sudden you're banging out bass notes. Just it's incredible to me, and I can't get my head around how somebody does that. Do you do that with Luke, or does he pretty much come to you and say, "Hey, here's what I want you to play"?
So not quite either of those. I don't write with Luke. That said, guys in the band do.
Okay.
Right. Rob, who I mentioned earlier, phenomenal songwriter, great talent, won CMA Song of the Year with the co-write for Beautiful Crazy. And and so we just released the deluxe album. Dustin has got a cut on there. King had a cut on the last record. So Luke writes with his guys for sure. Yeah. And then as far as like the playing goes, so there's a hierarchy sort of in Nashville where you've got your road guys and then you've got your session guys, and there's a few who kind of have a foot in both camps. And honestly, man, this is kind of the way it used to be, but the industry's changing so much. But it was like, I'm a road guy, so like I play bass for Luke on the road. Yeah. And then when he goes into the studio, it's really up to the producer to hire the musicians. There are a few guys who use their road band as their studio guys as well. But that's not the case in our camp. Now that said, when we get the material, when we get the rough mixes or the masters or the stems, and we can kind of break that stuff down, we do have the liberty to go, hey, I think I'm going to play inspired by this. Yeah. But I'm still going to play like me. You know what I mean? Nice. And he's completely cool with it.
That's awesome. All right. So a couple rapid fire stuff. Favorite country song ever, and it doesn't have to be Luke Combs. Favorite country song ever.
That would be Chris Christopherson's Jody and the Kid.
I'm going to have to look that up. I don't even know that one.
No, it's beautiful.
All right. I'm gonna look that up. Favorite country song. Well, favorite song to play, whether in concert ever. What's your favorite song to play on the bass?
You're Never Broke My Heart.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, you just from that first downbeat, it's eruption. Just there's an energy to that tune that is unparalleled.
So, I mean, I've been a country music fan for a long time, and right now, I'm telling you, him and Eric, man, everything that they touch right now is gold. Literally on the charts, but it just feels like they've connected with the audience. Now, country music's different. It's. I mean, we can be honest and say that the '90s was different, but Luke and Eric, they both tell stories, and I don't know. And I think that's what's been. Anyway, we could do a whole podcast on country music. But all right, so what's your favorite Luke song? I think you just said it. What's your favorite song? Not just to play. What's your favorite song of his?
Oh man, I don't know if it's because of the novelty of it and that it is still so new, but Forever After All is resonating so much with people right now.
Huge.
Man, I would say that's got to be top 5.
Beautiful Crazy was kind of here, and then it comes, how do you follow up Beautiful Crazy? It's almost like
with Forever After All
with something even bigger, right? It crazy, right? And somehow dude just pulled it off. And like I say, my daughters are big time fans, and I have a connection with Beautiful Crazy. As I think I emailed you when we were talking. My daughter has asked that we do that in the daddy daughter dance at her wedding. Is Beautiful Crazy, and that's special, man. That's awesome. What's your favorite city to play in?
Favorite city?
Arena, city. They're probably both connected. What's biggest? What's your favorite?
That's Kansas City for sure.
Because it's home, right?
Yeah. Sprint Center shows have been pretty special.
Yeah.
Hometown.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, man, that's all my notes that I had for you. We could talk all night. I mean, I feel like I could really honestly just, because I think there's a lot more to unpack for you, but man, I can't say enough how much, man, I really appreciate you going and talking about a place that couldn't be easy for you, especially you don't know me from Adam, and spending some time unpacking that with me is what an honor. Honestly, I mean that. And hopefully we can connect after this, and because I want to be a guy that prays for you and your wife and your daughter, you on the road, and that sounds probably before all that happened. That sounds cliche-ish, but man, you never know. It's a crazy world, and I want to be a guy that prays for you and your safety. And as Luke says, when I look for those days, I miss the road, I miss the bands, right? I miss the fans. I look for a day when we're not 6 feet apart anymore, and that you guys are out doing your thing and what you've been clearly born to do, and that you love to do, and that's be on the road. I really, really hope that soon. I do.
Me too, man. Me too.
Yeah. Well, dude, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your friend Kurt Harding. And like I said, let's exchange some stuff offline.
All right.
Let me just pray for you. As you go out and do those things in the road, let's connect offline and get some contact information so I can do that. I know you got your email already, but thank you, dude. I don't know how to say it. That's the only words I could say. It seems simple, but thank you for your time. Sure. For your message, and for just sharing your heart. And I hope you continue to beat those things that you've taken the time during COVID to really take head on. I'm proud of you, man. I don't know you from Adam, but I'm proud of you. And I hope you continue to just win every one of those battles.
Thanks, man.
All right, appreciate brother. We'll talk soon. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
Of course.
Right.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This has been the latest episode of the Unscripted podcast with your host, Aaron Conrad, from his studio at the Junction in Old Hilliard. Make sure to like, share, follow, and review on your favorite podcast platforms. Also, make sure to check out my song Great and Mighty One on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you find your music. We'll be back with another great guest soon. We'll see you next time.